Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into something pretty personal today, those memories, the ones that really shape your faith.
Oh, yeah, like defining moments, spiritually speaking.
Right. And we're looking at a talk called Spiritually Defining Memories,
Hmm.
given by Elder Neil L. Anderson.
Okay.
Now, he was speaking to the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
But this idea, I think, it speaks to anyone, who's ever felt that really strong connection with something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. That feeling of assurance, like God's really there.
Yeah, like a personal confirmation almost.
Yeah.
And it's not just your everyday run-of-the-mill spiritual experience, is it?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
It's deeper than that. More like a touchstone you can always come back to.
A source of strength.
Yeah, that's it.
Like Elder Anderson uses the example of Joseph Smith in the first vision.
Right.
Even when he was being persecuted, facing all this opposition,
Mm-hmm.
that memory, it was like his bedrock.
It's a really powerful example, isn't it? Like, if he could hold on to that through all that adversity, it tells you something about the power of those experiences.
And I guess that's what makes them so defining, right? It's not just remembering something that felt good.
Right.
It's about having that source of strength to draw on whenever things get tough.
Absolutely. And to really bring this to life, Elder Anderson shares some incredible stories in this talk.
I love the stories.
Yeah, they're so powerful. Each one kind of shows how these memories can look different for different people.
Well, unlike the one with Dr. Nelson, before he was President Nelson.
Oh, right.
He's doing this super complex heart surgery, and he's looking at this damaged valve, and there's no known procedure at the time.
Oh, wow.
And suddenly, he gets this clear message, like, reduce the circumference of the ring,
Wow.
and he even sees how to do it.
Like a vision.
Yeah, like a mental blueprint.
Yeah.
And he later said, he just knew that God knew he had been guided.
That's incredible, that level of certainty.
It's like having that direct line.
Yeah. It's not just feeling good.
Right.
It's like crucial guidance.
And then there's Beatrice Maugret. It's such a sweet story, but
Oh, I love that one.
so powerful. She's on this beach trip with her youth group,
Yeah.
and one of the leaders loses his glasses in the ocean,
Oh, no.
stranded. And someone suggests they pray about it. Now, she's kind of skeptical, but she joins in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And she's stretching out her arms, kind of splashing the group playfully, and bam,
She finds the glasses.
the glasses
Yeah.
right there in her hand. Talk about divine intervention. It's amazing.
What's amazing, like a little miracle.
And for her, that became a defining moment. But it wasn't this big dramatic thing, was it?
No, but that feeling that came with it, that's what made it so special.
And it makes you think, how many times do these things happen and we just don't even recognize them?
Right. We're not paying attention.
We're not tuned in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this whole concept, These memories, they're not always going to announce themselves with flashing lights. Sometimes they're quiet, almost hidden in plain sight.
Like little treasures waiting to be found.
Yeah, and it's up to us to, to be open to them, to notice them. And these stories, they show how diverse those experiences can be. Like, you've got Floripace Luzia Damasio, who converted to the church when she was 103.
103. That's incredible. What prompted that?
So she saw this baby who was really sick, and the missionaries gave him a blessing. And the baby was healed, just like that. And she got this incredibly powerful confirmation of Joseph Smith's calling as a prophet.
Wow.
And even at 114 years old, she was taking this 14-hour bus ride every year to attend the temple.
You just never know when these moments are going to hit you, do you?
Exactly. It could be any stage of life, any situation.
And Elder Anderson himself, he shares a story from his mission in France.
Oh, yeah?
He was visiting this woman who'd read the Book of Mormon and gotten a testimony of it. And he just felt this tangible spiritual power during that visit, a feeling that stayed with him ever since.
It's amazing how these memories, they're not just about what we see or hear, but what we feel, right?
A deep sense of connection.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, how many seemingly ordinary moments might actually be holding this incredible spiritual significance if only we were paying attention.
It's like learning to speak a new language, the language of the Spirit.
Absolutely. The more we tune in, the more we start to recognize those moments and what they really mean.
And while each story is unique, they all point to that same truth, don't they?
They do. It's about that powerful confirmation of God's love and his presence in our lives.
It's so personal, but it's also something so universal.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so powerful. It's not just about warm, fuzzy feelings. It's about feeling connected to something much bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. With that in mind, let's dive a little deeper, shall we? I'm really curious to explore how these memories actually show up. Like what forms do they take? And how can we create more space for those moments in our own lives? Stick around, we're just getting started. It's easy to think, when we're talking about these spiritually defining memories, that they have to be these big, huge, life-altering events.
Yeah, it's something out of a movie.
Right. But Elder Andersen, he points out that they can be really subtle.
Oh, absolutely. Like, have you ever just had this feeling in your heart or like a sudden idea pops into your head?
Or even just like pure intelligence.
Yes, exactly. It's not always, a booming voice or a parting of the skies.
Right.
Sometimes it's just this gentle nudge
Uh-huh.
or this sudden clarity that kind of puts you on the right path.
It's like that aha moment, right?
Exactly. And that's why, being present, really listening for those little whispers, it's so important.
Because it's easy to miss them, isn't it?
Oh yeah, especially with all the noise and distractions in our lives. It's like trying to hear a whisper in a hurricane.
So how do we even begin to cultivate that kind of sensitivity, that awareness of the divine in our everyday lives?
Well, Elder Andersen gives some really great advice on this. He talks about being intentional about our spiritual practices, things like prayer, studying the scriptures,
Going to church?
yeah, serving others, going to the temple if that's part of your faith tradition. It's like we're creating this space for those moments to happen.
Like fertile ground almost.
Exactly. It's about, preparing ourselves spiritually. These practices, they're not just empty rituals. They help us refine our spiritual senses.
So we could be more attuned, like fine-tuning our antennas.
Exactly. And it's not just about making time for formal practices either. It's about carrying that same spirit of reverence and attentiveness throughout our day.
Even in the little things.
Yes. What if, instead of just rushing through our day, we took a moment to just appreciate the beauty around us, the kindness of a stranger, or even just the warmth of the sun?
Like finding the sacred in the ordinary.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that, the divine isn't out there somewhere. It's woven into the fabric of our lives.
It's all around us.
Yeah, and that brings us to a really important point, which is the role of the Savior's atonement in all of this. It's through his grace, that we're able to quiet the noise and really connect with that divine frequency.
So it's not just about our own effort. It's about aligning ourselves with something much greater.
And trusting that, in those moments of stillness, when we open ourselves up, that's when we'll find that guidance and confirmation.
It's like surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's where the real power of these spiritually defining memories lies.
Okay, so we've talked about what these spiritually defining memories are, how they can kind of sneak up on us sometimes. But I think the big question is, why does any of this even matter? What difference do these moments really make?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's easy to get caught up in the stories themselves, but I think if we step back for a minute, we realize that these memories, they're not just nice stories,
They're like evidence.
Yeah, exactly. Evidence of how God works in our lives.
Like each one is a little piece of the puzzle.
Yes. And as we gather more and more of these pieces, our faith, it becomes less of a concept and more of a reality.
It's like we're building this foundation.
Absolutely. These memories, they become this source of strength, especially when we're facing doubts or challenges.
Like a compass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Always pointing us back to that place of peace and certainty.
So we're not just wandering around aimlessly,
Exactly. And Elder Andersen, he really encourages us to not only treasure these memories, but to actually write them down.
Oh, like a journal.
Yeah. Like a spiritual journal. So we can go back and revisit those moments,
Yeah.
and draw strength from them in the future.
And what about sharing them with others?
Oh, yeah, that's huge because when we share our experiences, it can be so powerful for other people, especially those who might be, struggling with their own faith.
That's like we're offering a little bit of light.
Exactly. It's contagious, that kind of faith. So as we wrap up, I want to ask you, have you ever had one of these moments? Something that you would consider a spiritually defining memory?
And if so, how did it change you? How did it shape your faith or your perspective on the world?
And here's another thought to chew on. What can you do starting today to create more space for these moments in your own life? To be more sensitive to the Spirit?
Because these moments, they're gifts, aren't they? Little treasures that we can hold on to.
And they can really change our lives if we let them.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep exploring.